What is up, guys? Frosty Aussie 0232 here today for another Frosty Features. We have our second person in the feature today for the Spider Society. We have a character that we see in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and today we are gonna dive into that bad boy right there. So if you haven't seen one of these before, what this is a comic book background on the tunes that you use in Marvel Strike Force. And I am your guide through the pages of history. So with that, let's begin. According to Scopely, what this is the blog post description of the background, the story of the character in question. We will rate this at the end of the feature. So, Spider-Man Pavitr. Who is Spider-Man Pavitr? He's glad you asked. His name is Pavitr Pravarkar. And after only being Spider-Man for 6 months, he got a web watch to traverse the Spider-Verse for the Spider Society. Being Spider-Man is so easy for Pavitr. He's naturally buff, smart, has great hair, beats up bad guys, and makes time for chai with his Maya auntie. So, as I said, we will rate that at the end. That is the pronunciation I'm going with. I watched a lot of videos on how to pronounce his name, and what I said is the closest amalgamation of all the different versions I heard. So that's what we're going to go with. If it is incorrect, I'm apologizing now formally. Fantastic. This is Pavitr Pravarkar from the comic books before Across the Spider-Verse. This is what he looked like. So yes. So name, we've said it a couple times, Pavitr Pravarkar. Earth 50101. This is the situation where our Earth 50101 is where all of the Spider-Man events essentially happen in Mumbai. So we're going to talk a lot about the differences between the comic. So that's mainly what Frosty Features is about, right? Is to talk about the comic book version of a character. The version that we are using is from Across the Spider-Verse. He is based on the comic book character, but there's a lot of differences. So in 50101, the things that are happening in Mumbai, not but Mumbattan, which is what we get in Across the Spider-Verse. So these are going to be the big differences. First appearance is Spider-Man India #1, all the way back in 2004, which is super crazy to think about that we never really saw him in much of anything until Across the Spider-Verse, at least me, right? So in getting this person to come out, I had to go back and read things. So I read Spider-Man India. It is a 4-issue arc from 2004. That's where we get Pavitr Pravarkar, and that's where most of the information comes from. And then you see him show up in the Web Warriors comic series, which we've talked about a lot. Our battles with the Inheritors is we've addressed in multiple Frosty features. We talked a lot about it, I believe, in the Peter B. Parker feature. So with that, you see Pavitr Pravarkar in there quite a bit. I'm gonna say this version of Spider-Man. It's just gonna be easier for me. So this version of Spider-Man a lot in the Web Warrior series. He's a strong side character, and we do even see a little bit of jumping back into his world, but it's actually pretty rare. And actually through this feature, up until this recording date, we're actually going to cover everything that I'm aware happens in the 50101. But due to the popularity of the character from Across the Spider-Verse, I would not be surprised if it expands past this recording date. But I can't control time. Powers and abilities, superhuman. So he's Spider-Man, right? He's superhuman, advanced reflexes, strength, etc. Spider sense. He's got essentially Spider senses. A little bit of precog where he gets a slight warning before something happens. It gives him time to react. And then he has wall crawling. That's essentially what we get from Spider-Man. So we've talked about this a lot on Frosty Features because in Marvel Strike Force, we have a lot of different versions of Spider-Man, a lot of different versions of Peter Parker. And then we got Ben Reilly, we've got Miles Morales, whatever. The spiders get their powers from different sources. Sometimes it's a radioactive spider, sometimes it's magical. Pavitr gets his from a magical source, so he's a little bit more similar to Spider-Noir than he is Peter Parker, right? So these are things that we need to consider. Frosty Feature Spider-Noir. Check it out. It's an early one. Aliases, Spider-Man. As far as I'm aware, he's really only known as Spider-Man. He is the Spider-Man of his universe, Earth 50101. He is Spider-Man, right? Affiliations. He is affiliated with the Spider Army, which is the Spider Society equivalent in the comics, and then the Web Warriors, which have fallen off so hard at this point in time in Marvel Strike Force, but he could be a fun thing that goes in there and, jazzes stuff up. That's not what we're going to get. We're going to get the Spider Society situation, which is fine, but we're just throwing it out there. Background. Okay, so he lived in a remote village in lived in a remote village in India, and then he got most of a scholarship to go to Mumbai and become a Mumbaikar. I'm trying. So he got the scholarship. So he goes to live with his aunt and uncle in Mumbai and attend school there, right? So that's how he gets in the mix of everything. And then, who died? Can't be a superhero, supervillain without somebody dying in his situation. One of the reasons why, after he gets... he's a genius, right? Like most versions of Peter Parker, he's a genius. So he gets a scholarship. So his parents die, and for that, this is one of the reasons why we go live with aunt and uncle, and he goes off based off of goes and lives off of, with them, what have you. And then, so that puts him with aunt and uncle, and then Uncle Beam dies, which great power comes with great responsibility situation. He's the Uncle Ben. In Across the Spider-Verse, this is addressed in the plot, right? The whole thing is that he's trying to prevent the Gwen Stacy equivalent's dad from dying. It's a whole thing. Check it out. It's been out for a while, so I think we can talk spoilers, but regardless, Uncle Beam dies, right? So there we are. All right, so comics versus the movies. Big differences, right? First off, this is how he looks, which the redesign in the movie is super cool. It's very different because this is Spider-Man, and then he's got different pants essentially, right? So plus 10 points to the movie for a really cool redesign. In the movie we're in, part of the problems here. We've talked about it a few times with Frosty Features with the different Earth designations. In the Earth 50101, that is the comic verse that is made for Spider-Man India. And in Across the Spider-Verse, it is said that Pavitr Parker is in 50101, even though the story is different. He is not in Mumbai, he's in Mumbahattan, which is Manhattan and Mumbai put together, right? He's living with Maya or whatever, but another big difference is his girlfriend in the movie is a Gwen Stacy equivalent, whereas in the comic books it is an MJ equivalent, which is Mira Jane, Mira Jane instead of Mary Jane. Mira Jane. And yes, and then his movie girlfriend is Gayatri Singh, which is it's a Gwen Stacy equivalent, right? So these are slight differences, but they sort of matter, especially for the fact that Mira Jane comes up quite a bit in the comics. As far as I'm aware, Gayatri Singh does not exist, right? So there's quite a bit of differences. Also, the comic book version of Pavitr does not use a yo-yo as part of his fighting style. That's just a cool thing they sort of added. I really enjoy that, but it is a big difference. Demons. So another big thing. So when we see, I brought up Spider Noir earlier. So we have situations with a spider god, and he's fighting different types of totems and things like that. In this version, it very much, so we're in Mumbai, we're in India, so we're based on a lot of Hindu, like a Hindu religion and practices, which is really cool because we get to see some of these characters redesigned kind of with that eye. But for Pavitr, he is fighting crime like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but instead of having mutated people he's fighting, these people are possessed by demons, or he's fighting actual demons that come out of essentially this portal that's created by an amulet, right? So his rogues gallery is same, but different. Same, but different, right? But it's cool. It's a lot of fun. And in the Spider-Man India run, we get this pretty neat kind of description and deviation from what's going on of like regular Spider-Man. It's not just a complete rehash. It's got a little bit of uniqueness to it. We'll talk about that here in a minute. All right, relationships. Maya and Beam Prabhakar are his aunt and uncle, and then we've got Mira Jane, his girlfriend. Outside of that, we pretty much just have enemies that I'm aware of, and then his friends within the Web Warriors. We don't usually bring up like direct friends or anything like that. As of where we are now, like I said, we had him in Web Warriors, but he's a side character, so his development's pretty shallow, except for Electroverse number 6. And then we'll have Spider-Man India. So this is all we get from Spider-Man India. And even that's only 4 issues, so there's not a whole bunch that can be delved into. But there it is. Notable events. So let's talk about Spider-Man India. I talk about it, so you don't have to, or you don't have to read it. It's actually a lot of fun. Highly recommend reading it. I enjoy the artwork in it as well. But it's a complete deviation from regular Spider-Man. And in the early 2000s, they were this is when they were definitely expanding the Spider-Verse to add all these different characters so they could play with them later. That's how we get the Inheritors, Web Warriors, etc. So it's a lot of fun. So, as we said before, this is so that is our version of Doc Ock and Spider-Man India. What happens? As I stated before, he goes to Mumbai to live with his aunt and uncle. In doing so, he's going and he goes to school and everybody's like, haha, your parents are dead. You're an orphan, right? Ha ha ha. And they beat the crap out of him and he's living a pretty mediocre life. He doesn't trust anybody and he's got it in his head that everybody hates him, which leads to this really awkward encounter with Mira Jane because she's like, hey, I'm kind of into you. And he's like, stop bullying me, you. And she's like, no, I'm serious. I'm like into this. And he's like, oh yeah? And she's like, oh yeah, right? At the same time, we have a character named, we're going to try this, Nalan Oberoi, who is essentially Norman Osborn, and he gets this demonic amulet. So this guy's, it's Norman Osborn, right? He's very rich. He's all about this, and he gets this amulet and does so, and he turns into this demonic, think Ultimate Green Goblin, but more demony, less wings, right? So he becomes this like hulked out, like super big, super strong Green Goblin, and he's like, I'm gonna screw some stuff up. And flash forward, we're back in the school. Pavitr's having a day, and he's running away from his bullies, and he's like, oh god, I don't want to get my butt kicked again today. And he's running, and he's running, he goes around a back alley, and he runs into an old man, and the old man is like, your karma is aligned. It is time for you to meet your destiny, Pavitr. Alright? Maybe a little bit of this action. We don't know. He was a yogi, right? He ended up being a very powerful yogi, and he is putting his Pavitr's destiny in motion, and he uses his magic to turn Pavitr into Spider-Man, giving him his spider powers. And so, essentially, Pavitr blacks out and wakes up on top of a building already wearing a spider costume. Where to get it? I don't know. Magic, right? So, he's wearing a spider costume, and he learns that he has these spider powers, organic web shooters, etc. He can flip, spider sense, whatever. He's flying around. It's all a good time. And so, the whole thing the yogi was trying to get across to him is, hey, a powerful demonic force has just happened. So, when Nalan opened up this portal and became the Green Goblin, he also opened this portal so demons could come into the world. So essentially everything needs to balance in this situation. So Pavitr was turned into Spider-Man to create this balance. He was there to close the portal, right? To end the demons coming. So the yogi conveys this to him. He is like, I got cool spider powers. People won't beat me up anymore. Life's fine. Life's good. That's chill. So he's swinging around, enjoying being Spider-Man, and he sees a mugging happening. And he's like, hey, lady, you're being mugged. And she's like, I absolutely am. And he was like, you've got this. I believe in you. I got to go see my uncle. And in doing so, misses the fact that his uncle shows up. And he's like, he doesn't actually speak to the lady, by the way. That'd be really messed up. But the Uncle Beam shows up, and he's like, hey, get away from that lady, you muggers. And those muggers are like, you don't look like you're knife-proof, sir. And Beam's like, I don't think I am knife-proof. And then the mugger was like, hey, I'm gonna stab you to death. And then he dies, right? So Beam hears his uncle scream, and screams, and goes back, and he sees that his uncle has been stabbed, and he begins to beat the living crap out of the mugger. With that, a very, very strong exchange happens. I thought was just it was super impactful to me, but he kicks there's 3 muggers. He kicks the crap out of 2 of them, and he's looking at number 3, and number 3 is like, please, man, I got a wife and kids. And he looks at him and he goes, so did the man you just stabbed, and just decimates him, right? Oh, it's good. But from Uncle BM's death, he realized, he doesn't get told great power comes with great responsibility, but he comes upon that because he realized he could have saved his uncle. He could have stopped that situation, and he chose not to. So he comes upon it kind of on his own accord, but from his uncle's death, so it's kind of still the same thing. So with that, he starts fighting crime. And then Nolan finds out about that, and he's like, yeah, okay. And so with the demons possessing, because that's just kind of the fun part, right? We got Green Goblin, who struggles with this multi-personality thing. The Goblin talks to him. In this situation, there's demonic voices in his head that are telling him what to do. And the demonic voices are like, that's a problem, deal with it. So Nolan, he can also click back on and off, right? He can be goblin, not goblin, goblin, not goblin. Also in Hindu culture, cool thing, neat thing, demons in Hindu culture can show up as various monstrous forms, but often show up as a version of goblin, right? So pulling in this culture into this story actually works really well. So he clicks out of his goblin form, he goes to his doctor, and he's like, yo, doc, check out this cool amulet I got. Doink! And he touches it. The doctor is unnamed to this date, right? But he touches him, and he turns into demonic Doc Ock, who we see in the picture here. So he's like, Doc Ock, you're gonna go kill Spider-Man, and that's gonna be great. So he sends Doc Ock after him, and Pavitr ends up being able to take out that Doc Ock, avoid him, stop it from happening, and Doc Ock fails, but Nolan's like, nah, this is okay. What we're gonna do is, I own all the newspapers. Spider-Man is a demon. Type. Everybody Spider-Man's a demon. Everybody hates Spider-Man. Once again, cool parallels, right? Cool parallels. And so then he's like, you know what? I know what to do. And so Nolan turns back into the Green Goblin, and he goes and he kidnaps Aunt Maya, and he kidnaps Mira Jane, and he's like, all right, Spider-Man, what you gonna do about it? Because ultimately what he's trying to do is he's trying to lure Spider-Man into this situation so that he can hit him with the amulet, essentially. The demons are like, we need to come in contact with the spider, right? Good things will happen. Bad things. These are the bad guys, right? So he's like, we need to get him over here. So they go over there, and Pavitr shows up, and he's like, unhand my aunt and my girlfriend, you fiend. Also, historically in this situation, he can't beat him on a one-on-one fight. The goblin's quite strong. So he's like, I had my girlfriend's and aunt, you fiend. And he is like, all right, here's a choice. Make it. And he throws both of them, right? So usually we get the Gwen Stacy being tossed by Green Goblin, and then he accidentally kills her. In this situation, he sends Aunt Maya and Mira off into the air, and he's like, choose who's gonna live. And Pavitr goes for Aunt Maya, and then all of a sudden, boom! 8 arms or whatever, 8 limbs comes out of nowhere. Doc Ock catches it, and he returned to get his revenge on the Nolan who tried to kill him. So he catches Aunt Maya, he catches Mira, and Spider-Man catches Aunt Maya, and Spider-Man's trying to get Mira and Aunt Maya to a kind of a safe situation, and Doc Ock is like, I'm gonna fight you, Green Goblin, and Green Goblin is like, not a thing, and then he kills him. Dead this time. And so as that happens, Spider-Man shows back up to fight the Green Goblin, and the Green Goblin sort of gets the better of him, and he gets the amulet and he touches it to him, and then a black ooze comes out. That's right, it's demonic venom. So a black ooze comes out and starts to try to corrupt Pavitr, and is like, hey, I can make you so much stronger if you work with me. Here's all this cool stuff you could do. What are you gonna do about it? Pavitr's like, nah, dude, you're not getting me. Great power comes great responsibility. I don't need this. And in rejecting the demon is defeated because its sole purpose was to corrupt him. And this closes the portal, which stops Nolan from becoming Green Goblin anymore. So he closes it all off. The demons are released, and legitimately just by staying away from temptation, Spider-Man wins the day, which is super cool. So from that, that's what we get for a few years until we have the Web Warriors come out. So with that, on this channel, we have talked a lot about the Inheritor fights. We didn't really talk about Pavitr so much within that. He really is just sort of a background character. But directly after those fights, we have the Electroverse. And in the Electroverse, we actually see the second part to the 50101 Pavitr's world. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But ultimately, the way this works is so in the Spider-Verse, the idea is that everything is connected by the grand web or the web of life. And all these spider people are working together to accomplish different goals, and they make up a little spider army, right? So in the Electroverse, the same thing is happening, but Electro's doing this, right? So Electro is finding a bunch of different versions of Electro and creating they call it the Electroverse, but it's essentially an Electro army, which is a big bad deal because in the event that you follow Spider-Man at all, you know the Electro is one of the biggest problems that he finds, right? And the Web Warriors realize this by seeing that some of the spiders on the grand web have some sort of like a little electric thing going on with them, right? So they are hopping between different Earths, and essentially what we see, there's a bunch of different spider people. So here we are. This is past Inheritors. They're going to different places for different things. We see Gwen Stacy go, and she's trying to get tacos, and she gets kidnapped by some Electros. This is how we were introduced to the concept. And it turns out that they are also using the web of life, which is why we see the electric spiders. And then one of the big introductions that we see, so ultimately, this is a really complicated story, very similar to the Inheritors that can span a few things. I'm trying to fast forward to Pavitr's part of it, right? So, Lady Spider, which is a version of Spider-Man that is in a steampunk world, and a lady, and her name's, she's a version of May Parker. But anyway, so she's steampunk Spider-Man in a situation, and what happens, there's a bunch of stuff that's going on with Electro and Silver, and it's probably because Silver's a good conductor. I guess that's the joke. But when when Gwen is kidnapped, Silver is left behind, and then when we get to the steampunk world and Lady Spider, that version of Black Cat is stealing Silver, right? Which the Web Warriors get involved with that. So, as Gwen is stuck with these Electro people, Gwen escapes, and in doing so is able to warn everybody else off of what's going on. And then we go back to our steampunk world, and in the steampunk world, the Web Warriors show up, and they're able to stop Black Cat from stealing the Silver. And here we are. We get a little it's like an amulet, but it's not. It's a pendant. They get a special silver pendant which contains a small version of Electro, which Pavitr finally, but he comes in and he's like, hey, I can use this. So he takes that and he creates a international communicator, essentially a communicator so they can all speak through these different universes. And he's using this little Electro as the source of power. And with this, they are able to link up, create a Faraday cage to put all of the Electros in and trap them in essentially an Electro-specific prison, right? Which is cool. But from this, they go back to the grand web, and Pavitr notices that part of the web is on fire, and that is the web that is connecting to the 50101. So he and Lady Spider, from our steampunk situation, now we see how all this connects. He and Lady Spider from the steampunk situation go back to Mumbai, and he finds Mira, and Mira's like, holy crap, there's a bunch of demons all over the place, these black demons with all these teeth and these like muscles, and they're like amorphous, and they're out here just hurting a lot of people. What are we gonna do, Pavitr? And even though Pavitr has been performing very bravely as a Web Warrior, he gets back to his universe and automatically is hit with essentially what turns out to be anxiety or trauma. But he's seeing all the ways he failed in his world, and the places he fell short and his weaknesses and things like that. So he starts to doubt himself a lot, but he's got Lady Spider there with him. And so they start fighting a whole bunch of these they're demon versions of Venom. They're fighting all these different monsters, but then Pavitr, Lady Spider's like, what could the source of this be? And he's like, I know what it is, follow me. And he takes her off to these caves, the Ajahn caves, and which is supposed to be like this big Buddhist holy place, but apparently that's misrepresented in the media or something. So anyway, after the amulet in the first story we talked about, after that amulet was kind of decommissioned, it was brought here, and Peter knew that. So when they get there, you see this little clip right there with the giant Venom. Venom pops out and he's like, the demons are going to take over the world. This is it. And the Lady Spider's like, ah, crap, and starts fighting the Venom. And then she's like, Pavitr, where did you go? And then all of a sudden, a big whoosh comes through everything, and all of these demons disappear. And what he did was he went into the back of the cave and destroyed the amulet, cutting off the portal again, and just making all the demons go away. And it was as simple as that. But as of this recording date, 4/21/24, that's all of Pavitr Pravarker's story as far as it is with his individual stuff. There's little side things that he's in, and he makes little comments or whatever, but those are really all. That's the whole thing that we got so far. Once again, I expect to see him more in the comics due to his success in Across the Spider-Verse. So up next is power level. Marvel Strike Force doesn't care about power level, but on this channel we do. Know the way that this works. If you are a multiversal threat, that means you are a threat to all of reality. Not just your reality, but the multiverse as a whole can be toppled at your whim. If you are a universal threat, you can end your reality, perhaps hop on over to another reality, and end that one over there. Pause. I just spilled so much water on myself and then spit it on my computer. Let's go. Cosmic means that you are a threat on a planetary scale, taking out things like a small planetary body up to a solar system or galaxy with enough time. Nuclear means you have power equal to that of a nuclear bomb, being able to level things on the small end, like small cities, all the way up to a planetary body, once again, with enough effort. Super Soldier means that you are a being that is beyond all human capability levels, right? So you can level things like brick walls, or with enough time, merit, etc., you could take out something like a city block. City means that you are City means that you are a human being that is trained to the absolute and utter peak of human ability. So here we see a lot of our mercenaries, our secret agents, ninjas, things like that in the Marvel Universe. And then there's Greg. Greg is the undead Asgardian that is spawned by Hela in Marvel Strike Force and left to his own devices without his undying friends and Hela, the goddess of death. Greg isn't worth a tinker's fart, right? So, with Greg, we equate him on this channel to equal to human levels. So, if I'm out on a daily run, just running across through, and I've got my old iPod from, 2004 hooked up to my headphones, 2004, and Greg comes upon me, and he's like, hey, I'm a mugger. I'm gonna mug you. I could turn around, get wrist control on this mug, and end the situation, because theoretically, me as a normal human being could be equal to that of a Greg. So, in the case of Spider-Man Pavitr, what do we have here? Well, like pretty much every other Spider-Man, he is safely in the Super Soldier area. This version of Spider-Man is not subject to the spiders that were experimented on to try to recreate the Super Soldier Serum like Peter Parker. They have magic, but due to the fact that they are, as Pavitr puts it, echoes or distortions of the 616 Spider-Man, they have the same powers, they just have different power bases. It comes from a different source, right? So, even though his power comes from a different area, he is still in the Super Soldier tier, right? Once again, their effects can be bigger than this, but this is actual factual, as strong as they are, what they can do, etc., right? So Pavitr Pravarker is in the Super Soldier classification, according to me, and to the blog post. So, especially with the Across the Spider-Verse characters, comic book cop-out is really easy to give them. This one's worse, right? They said pretty much nothing about who this character is. In fact, it might as well just be a little bit of dialogue he said. They don't even say Mumbat, right? So, we don't even have the basis that he's in the movie. This one is so poor that it doesn't even tell you where he's from that they're referencing, right? It just says that he's in the Spider Army, and he has an easy life as as Spider-Man, right? So you don't even get, you barely get anything about his story at all, and pretty much nothing about that movie. So there it is. Didn't even try. And that was Frosty features Spider-Man Pavitr. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Let me know your favorite Spider-Man Pavitr moments in the chat, comic book or otherwise. The movie was solid, I thought, so love to hear that. If I got something wrong, please also let me know. I would love to know that. Please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything but a couple of clicks, and as a reminder, I stream at the link above on Twitch Sundays, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, where we do Frosty Features live. I hope that you all enjoyed this. I hope that you all have a fantastic, fantastic week. And most importantly, y'all, stay cool.